Now down here, I made what's called a story rod. And the story rod, I'm going to change this thing over. So the story rod's, layout rod, whatever you want to call it. This is all based on what I know about the newel post. I'm going to go back over here to the bull nose because that's my key point. The bull nose is based on that 3D drawing that I have. And all of these layouts here, I know it's upside down, but that's where just the way it's at right now. Let me turn it around. Anyway, there you go. That's a little shot of it right side up. I'm going to turn it back down to my perspective again. Anyway, that's all laid out on a 3D drawing that I made. I have a full-size drawing of the way the balusters are going to come down, where the newel post is, and there's an offset for a turnout that's going to go on top of this set of stairs, and it has a 4 7/8 offset. So that's the center line of the balusters through here in the pencil line, and I drew that to a center line for the newel, and then laid out a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square newel post there. And to get this dimension, that dimension, and this dimension all equal, that's how I was able to, I guess I said that right. This bull nose is sized where this placement is where I got the same dimension there, same there, and it's all well centered in that. With this baluster line, which I'll be taking up on the staircase, and that's what this little piece of business that I got here, again, get it adjusted, sorry about the roller coaster ride. That's the nose of the bull nose out here. Let me see if I get this right in the picture. That's the end of the bull nose there. That's the riser face under the bull nose. That's the backer that's going to carry the curved riser to match that radius that's on the bull nose that you've seen over there. This is just labeling saying that I have the bull nose beyond this point. And that's the offset to the center line of the newel based on that drawing over there on that blue tape thing for the bull nose. And that's what that says right there. Now, the turnout that's coming up the set of stairs is going to go on up from the top and it's going to come on down. It's going to have what's called a turnout. You'll see that in a later video. That has a 4 7/8 of an inch offset. And that's where I describe that right in all this mix of numbers right here. It's marked as center line. So I like my balusters to be, when they're all done, with their overall width, which these will be metal balusters with metal shoes at the bottom. I want the metal shoes to be right on the edge of the skirt board on the side and right on the face of the riser on the front. So that's what that's all about. And then that'll tell me where my finished panels are going to be at and the center of these balusters. So with that, this number right here, which I had to move them around the side, there's my skirt, the mole caps for the panels, and the MDF panel itself. The MDF panel is 1/2 inch thick. The moles are 11/16, and the skirts are 11/16, written on the other side right there. So the moles are going to be flush with the drywall. And with that lining up with the edge of the drywall, I think that gets the idea right there. I'm going to use a straight edge to make sure, because the drywall is out a little farther than my skirt, my rough carriages, which is intentional. I'd rather have shim space than it being out too far. And then with that, I took a measure off to the other side, and it jives with what I have over there on my bull nose leaning up against the wall. So that's where I'm at now. Besides, I'm ready to now take this, which also has the layout of the newel post on it, and I'm going to cut this out eventually once I confirm everything. That's what I'm in the process of doing now. And once this is cut out, then that newel post will drop right down through the cutout in the top of the bull nose tread and right into this, where I'll socket this all in with some glue and keep enough screws in it, probably hidden on the back side if it even needs it. All it needs to be done is just really left alone for a day or two, so that the let me turn this thing around again. That way, the bull nose, shucks, not the bull nose, but anyway, the newel post can just set up in the glue, and the PL glue that I'll be using is a polyurethane base. It's a long open time, which I like. It doesn't start skinning over right away. It gives me time to adjust stuff. And this right here will be rock solid when it's all done, because I got this one going in, and I'll show you more in that video later on. Continuing on with the staircase, I laid out the bull nose down there, and the way it looked, it was sticking out really far out, more into the room than what I was hoping. Just looking at the basic pieces that I was working with, that was the blocks, and I'll show you then when I get downstairs at the bottom. I got the camera positioned at the top of the stairs right now, so hopefully it'll show up well down there. But anyway, when I took that story rod, the layout pole, and I moved all my marks up here where the newel post, the half newel, will be at the top of the stairs here. I move this, reposition this. Hope it'll get the idea across. Anyway, the newel post was like way over here with so much space beyond the wall, and it's going to complicate this corner down here. And I could put a pendant drop on it and such, but with that going on down at the bottom end of the stairs, with that bullnose section down there, and I drew it back, I wanted to get this up here closer to this corner. So right now, the way it is, the corner, the newel post is going to be about maybe an inch off the corner here. That'll minimize this little block, this little screw up that the floor guy did. I had this thing all marked out and told him where I needed him to run it. That's what that mark's about. I had blue tape showing this with big black magic marker saying this is where I need it to go to. But anyway, that's besides the point now. So anyway, I moved everything in, and I'm not really crazy about how the detail is going to work out. I was going to put the balusters down over, not at the edge of the risers like I like them to be, or at the edge of the skirt boards. I'm going to bring them in a few inches, and I'm not crazy about it. But if this was a, a new build, this wall could have been brought back farther, and it wouldn't be such an issue. But I'm working with existing conditions, so there's got to be some give and take here, and it's not my ideal situation, but this is how I'm going to tackle it, because I just don't like how much, walking down the stairs now, I just don't like how much this bull nose, and I'm going to turn it around, how much this bull nose will stick out. Go ahead and get this in place. I sanded the floor down here so that the glue, and no, I'm not cutting out the floor. That way, when that goes in, you can see how much it's sticking out now, and that's reducing it by about 2 inches to get that up at the top of the stairs. So by the time the bullnose comes on, it's still going to be out here, and it's not as bad. They'll have 40 inches of space between the center line of the handrail out here and to the wall over there. So it's really, it'll be about 38 and a half because I'm adding that material on that wall for the paneling. So anyway, that's what we got here, and I'm going to carry on with this. All right, I got the one basic block, the one backer for the curved riser in place. I got a straight edge gauging off the face of the existing risers. Make sure it's a straight line. Sanded down the floor so that the polyurethane glue would bond the way it needs to. Also got my hole pre-punched at 3.5 inches square for the 3.5 inch square newel post. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but the owners want a plinth ran around the bottom of the newel post. So I'm not a big fan of doing that. I like the way it would be clean, but that's my opinion. They want a plinth around the base, so I can take and cut a 3.5 inch square hole in even the finished tread and have the plinth still cover up the gap that's going to be around there, which will allow me a little bit of room for shimming and stuff. Typically, I cut a 3.25 inch hole, square hole in the floor. That way I can put a shoulder on the newel, but that's another story, and I'll show you that later on. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is add the other piece, take that dimension there and measure that from here to there, and then from here to the underside of this tread. This is not getting any extra blocks added underneath of it, so this is a good number. And I'm going to take some material that's good and stable, some quarter sawn material, and block this up so that this picks up that height. And when that's all done, those two holes will be dead on top of each other. That'll provide me my initial pocket for the newel post to set in. And the tread will also have the same thing too. While I had the paneling off of the wall, which won't happen really until tomorrow, I took the time to take the skirt board, the one that you see nested over top of the rough carriage. I took the time to actually cut that around the carriages for the other side. This is just a little test on this side that I'm using, because I'm also going to use this as a basis to do the skirt board on the side that you see this placed right now. Again, it's all within reason. The treads are 1.5 inches thick. I did it with a skill saw. It doesn't need to be all real pretty. We can be all anal and crap like that, but it's all getting covered up on the edges. It's well within the reason of all the margins that needs to be to where everything's covered up the way it needs to be. So I'm perfectly happy with that. Hopefully nobody finds any complaint about it, but everything's down there on the floor as it should be, where it's going to, and again, this is going to be not there where it's at. It's going to be over there on the far side. And I have it extra long so I can make a miter around the corner of the wall. And I'd love to put it there, but I'm afraid it just wouldn't serve any real good purpose right now. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and the other skirt board is going to stop down at this point. You can see the upper line. This is the bottom of the skirt board. That's the rail from the diagonal rail. That's going to be part of the paneling in this area here. The blue line is the height of the skirt board, not skirt board, baseboard is going, and they're going with 7.25 inch tall baseboard here, which is going to mess with that out a little bit. I don't know why they went with that tall, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, I might cheat that down a little bit because this does not tie into anything else. And I can get below that by about 1/4 inch. And I don't think that anybody would pick up the height of that base versus the height of the other. And that blue line is the height of the base plus the 4.5 inch rail. That's the part that's going to get into the box, is the rails of this. Again, here's the bottom section on the drawing that I made. I drew it as a 4.5 inch tall base on the 3D program. It just obviously is going to go up another 3 inches higher, and it gets into that receptacle because of that. So that's what I got for that. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down and put this on pause and get this out of the way and actually overlay it on top of the piece that I have for the actual base itself. There's my pile of graduated shims that's going to go on the tops of the carriages to get the difference of the 3/4 inch to go away. And they're all from 11/16 thick over here all the way down to a 1/16 inch thick over there on the far side. There's some spares over there on the far end over there, but there's the 1/16, 1/8, 3/16, and so forth. Anyway, that's what that plan's about.